Hi everybody, it's Des here. Hopefully you're watching this video because later on in the next coming days you're going to tune in for a training session with me on some basic knots which are useful to anybody who gets in a boat and does things in a boat. Some basic knots that are useful to them. Now obviously we can't do this face to face. Now we could do it face to face. We'd have things like this, clever little training aids that we can have there so we can actually practice the knots on things in front of us. Now, not having that to hand, not being able to come round and do this one-to-one with people, I've come up with some ideas to improvise ways to make the training aids that you'll need for the knots training session. So the two things you're going to need are, one is a cleat, and you'll have seen these I'm sure plenty of times on a dock or a pontoon, a cleat that you would tie a rope off to anchor a boat. Sorry, not anchor a boat, to moor a boat. Another is a bar, some type of bar, again, as you would commonly see on the dock to moor a boat to. So I'm going to show you a number of potential ways of improvising these two. All you need to do is pick one for whatever works for you, whatever resources you've got at hand at home, so you can make a cleat and make a bar, and then when we do the knots training session later in the week, we can practice it. You can practice it there at home and not just watch me do it and think, oh, that looks really nice, but not get hands-on, get a chance to practice it. So first, simplest idea I have for this, I've had to adapt, improvise and innovate on some of this to say the least, is to take just a piece of wood and screw two screws at angles into the piece of wood, and that gives us a nice pretend cleat that we can then practice our cleat hitch on. Nice and simple, nice and easy. You can then also use the end of the piece of wood, for practicing knots where you're going to tie rope onto a bar as such. If you haven't got screws, anything which you can screw in, so to a coat hanger, a picture hanger, a hook, you could screw in at angles to give you two angled horns on the piece of wood, and that you can practice cleat hitch on. It would be fantastic. If you haven't got wooden screws at home, you may have some cardboard boxes. You may have had some deliveries recently, and this is nice and easy to get a cardboard box. I've left the box intact because it gives some strength to it, and it also means that it's not lying flat on a surface, so you can actually get behind it with the rope when you're practicing. As you can see, all I've done is cut out this T-shaped to practice on. If you have a Stanley knife at home, Stanley knife works perfectly well. Make sure to ask mum and dad before you use anything sharp now. And you can see that cuts quite well, quite easily. Just obviously be careful of your fingers because they can be lethally sharp. If you haven't got a Stanley knife, I find a bread knife cuts really well and gives you quite a bit of control as you're cutting through cardboard. Although it does make a bit of a racket. And again, please do be careful if you're cutting up cardboard and to do it safely and not injure yourself. So this then gives us a T piece which we can use as an improvised cleat to practice our cleat hitch. Simple as that. You could potentially also use this for practicing with the bar, but I'm not sure how well the knots will take to that when we're doing certain knots where we're hooking up the clove hitch and a round turn and two half hitches. So that's another option. Might not have any cardboard at home, might be a really positive eco warrior and constantly recycle and not let it stack up. What about two pots? What about getting two pots out of the kitchen drawers, put them together like this so the two handles are sort of crossing over each other. Take some sellotape, this is just plain standard sellotape, or you can use masking tape or partial tape, electrical tape, any tape you've got at home. You could probably even tie it with a string. Tape them together like that. Now, it's not very tight, it's not the neatest, tightest of knot, but it doesn't need to be because we're just doing this to improvise a training aid, something we're going to take apart as soon as we're finished. And you can see, same idea, that works relatively well, and because they're a little bit heavier, the pots, it stays nice and relatively still, makes it easier to do the knots, although you can't put too much tension on it. The other bonus then from using the two pots is it gives us a handle to use as a bar when we're practicing some of our other knots like the clove hitch and the round turn and two half hitches. So because it's elevated off the ground as well, off the surface, we don't have to keep picking it up. So when we're doing round turn and two half hitches, we have something that we can work on here. Not everybody may have access to pots, or you might have really nice pots and not want to use them for something as ridiculous as that. So my next, slightly more Heath Robinson, this is very much a Blue Peter, here's one I made earlier, piece is 2 forks, 1 hairband or an elastic band, and a bit of sellotape. So we take the hairband or elastic band and wrap it round the tines, 2, 3, 4 times of the fork until it's relatively tight. We take the other fork and we insert it in between the elastic band, as so. And you can see those are fairly firmly together. We then place this down on our surface, take some sellotape, and this doesn't need to be pretty, it doesn't need to be perfect, it doesn't have to last forever, it's just going to last long enough to do a bit of practice. Tape that down. And now we have 2 horns, improvised cleat that we can practice some basic knots on. It's not perfect. If you pull too tight, it is going to rip up, but it's good enough for what we need, that you can actually get your hands on the rope and practice tying the knots, as opposed to just listening to someone tell you and bore you about them. Because getting knots right, a lot of it comes from muscle memory and repetition and practice. Getting your hands on and seeing you can do it and having a little bit of confidence in that is the best way to learn. Last but not least, we have a gas hob here at home. On a lot of gas hobs, you have these sort of metal grills, grates that hold the pots above the actual gas burner. And on this one, you can see we have a T-piece, a 2-horned cleat as such, which is perfect for practicing on. We can also then use one of the other prongs to practice our clove hitch and our round turn and 2 half hitches, sorry. So that's the clove hitch, obviously. So I've given you some ideas there, hopefully, some improvised ideas if you haven't got a handy made at home knots practicing board, so that you can produce a cleat, something with 2 prongs that we can practice a cleat hitch on, and a bar, something that we can practice our clove hitch and a round turn and 2 half hitches. So an improvised cleat and an improvised bar. You just need one of those. You need an improvised cleat and an improvised bar, and then when we do hopefully the knot training session later on, this will give you something to practice on, so you're not just watching me do a knot and talk about it and bore you with that. You're actually having a chance to have a go, tie the knot yourself, see how it works, look at it, examine it, take it apart, tie, repeat, and you also then know the things you have at home that you can use to practice knots in the future. Guys, I hope to see some of you in the weeks ahead as we do some online knot training sessions, and I hope you're all looking forward to getting back out on the water later on in the week. Stay safe until then, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you soon.